So much going on in the world, it makes people think, what is behind this? If there's any kind of sinister plot involved. With that in mind, I want to bring in now Steve Rogers. He's a retired lieutenant detective for the Nutley, New Jersey Police Department. He's in our New York studio. And Detective Rogers, Lieutenant Rogers, you were here to talk to me about preparations for the New Year's Eve Times Square event. When you see pictures like this, what do you say to folks out there watching, wondering if there's anything behind this other than perhaps a horrible accident?
Well, what is very, very important is that the people wait until they get the facts. Unfortunately, in the environment that we're living in, the first reaction is terrorism. And in this case, it just may not be that. But it's very important that people just, take a step back, take a deep breath, and wait for the investigation to at least be completed, and then you take it from there.
And then obviously you are a detective, and we again wanted to talk to you about counterterrorism, et cetera. But again, you've been on scenes, you've seen fires. When you look at these flames so bright, so red, what can you tell us about the firefighting efforts at hand?
Well, I've got to tell you, when I look at tall buildings, the first reaction I have is, can they get the equipment, or do they have the equipment necessary to put this fire out? That looks like a fast-moving, rapidly moving fire, and it's just going right up the building. As a non-firefighter, one would think, were there accelerants put in that? Was it a planned fire? But we're not experts. That's up for the arson squads and the fire departments to determine. And your only hope is that it is not a terrorist-connected incident, because if it is, we've got some serious problems.
Absolutely. And we're looking at these flames here, live pictures there in Dubai from Dubai TV. And producers, I don't know if Rick Reitmuth is still in the Fox Weather Center, but if he is, if we can get him, because I'd like to know what the weather is there, if we can get him just to speaking with Lieutenant Rogers here. If we're looking at these flames, weather plays an effect in terms of wind, et cetera. But again, the concern would have to be, as you say, not only the firefighters getting to this accident, Lieutenant, but what about the folks who, you got to figure that someone's inside this building. This is a 5-star hotel, the Address Hotel, a very popular place there in downtown Dubai, just blocks away from the Burj, the world's tallest skyscraper, which stands at 163 floors. Now, this particular building is 63 stories tall. So again, folks have to be in there. And when you see flames like this, talk to me about the evacuation process. If the firefighters can't get in to put out the flames, can they get in to get to the people?
Well, you're not only dealing with flames, you're dealing with smoke. And as we look at the building to the right, obviously there's lights on. There's people in that area. There could be people that have gone up to the roof. I don't know of any fire department that has ladders that could go 63, 64 stories. I'm sure that they might bring some helicopters in to get people off the roof if they're up there. But as you said, the flames are so intense. I'm sure the heat's intense, but the real danger as people go up is the smoke. And you just hope to God there's not a lot of casualties there and people got out in time. But it doesn't look very good.
Yeah, these flames do look pretty bad. And at this point, we have no reports of any injuries as we are waiting to see how this thing is going to unfold. But man, the firefighters have their work cut out for him. We're told that 1.6 tons of fireworks were going to be used in the display that was to show just by the nearby Burj is where the fireworks are going to start. Again, it's blocks away. I haven't been there, so I'm not sure if it's a few blocks away exactly how far, but it's definitely nearby.
But may I add that I think what's important now, and we just touched on it earlier, that there are investigators on the ground, no doubt, trying to quickly determine the cause of this fire to make sure that there is no terrorism connection. And if there is not, they've got to let the people know immediately there is not, and vice versa. If there is, they've got to come out and let people know, look, we have a problem here.
And it's an excellent point, because of course the last thing you need, if in fact, which we can only assume that there are people trapped inside, the last thing you need is panic. They're already afraid and nervous and anxious because there's perhaps smoke seeping under their doors, there's a fire outside in the hallway, and the last thing they need to do is panic, concerned that there is some sort of terror plot at hand. So to your point, Lieutenant, exactly, the more that somehow they can communicate with those folks who are, we've got to believe, are trapped inside, the better. And usually hotels, of course, a 5-star hotel such as this one would definitely have a PA system where they can communicate with the folks who are inside the hotel. Any possibility, Lieutenant, that communication system would be disabled during such a tragedy like this?
That's a good question. Obviously, that intense fire, it sure could be. But people have cell phones. People have the ability to communicate through the social media, and that's why transparency, timeliness is important, because if they can't get the intercoms working there, you could be sure that people are on their cell phones and they're on their iPads or whatever. Social media is a good way now they can communicate. That's why timeliness, truthfulness, and accuracy is so important.
Reuters News Service apparently has been watching Al Arabiya television, and a civil defense official came on Al Arabiya television and said there are no injuries from the Dubai hotel fire and New Year's celebrations will proceed, which seems incredibly curious given what we're seeing here on the television screen. And in fact, these flames appear to be so intense, one wonders about the structural integrity of this building and whether or not, floors or the building itself could collapse. I mean, the heat from those flames has to be incredibly intense and has the ability to melt, I would imagine, just about anything. And unless water and an extinguishing ingredient can somehow be put on those flames.
And keep in mind your first responders. I mean, you're going to have a large number of first responders who's putting their lives in danger, so you could have casualties there. Right. I've learned one thing. All these people who will come on from different places and try to give information, the best sources are people on the ground, the command people on the ground in the command centers. They're the best sources to get accurate information, so I hope we hear from them soon.
Right.